Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Today on CityCast Boise. The city unveiled new flag designs and Boiseans were not having it. Meanwhile, Avelo Airlines is ditching our airport and facing scrutiny for its work with ICE. And next week, we're taking the show live from the depot to ask, could passenger trains make a comeback? It's Friday, April 11th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. It's Friday once again, and joining me for our news roundup is our executive producer, Frankie Barnhill. Thanks so much for being here today, Frankie.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It has been a bit of a whirlwind of a week in Boise, and we made pretty widespread news. I don't know if I can say national news, but pretty widespread news, and not necessarily for usually the horrible, terrible things that we do make national news for.
Sure.
But something that people were definitely passionate about. So, Frankie, where do you fall on the whole Boise flag redesign debacle?
Oh boy. Okay, let's get into this. This exploded in a way that, should we have predicted this? Could we have predicted this? Possibly. But I don't know if anyone could have known how wide this one would go. So just to recap, a couple months ago, the city was really excited about the fact that they were going to redo and redesign the Boise flag, which has been around for like 35 years. People can probably picture it. It's got that navy background with the white relief of the Capitol is like the main image. And then, and it's pretty boring. It's nothing, like, it's neutral. And we can talk about what we really think about it. But to me, it's kind of like, okay, sure. But it's been around and it looks a little dated too, probably.
Yeah, it's around since the 80s.
Yeah, and he's got that kind of 80 vibe a little bit, which maybe some people like. But anyway, so the city decided, hey, let's do this fun thing, everybody. Things are dark. Things are hard. There are very controversial things going on. So let's do something that everyone can get behind. Let's redesign the flag. Guess what? It went absolutely bonkers. So what happened is they asked for submissions from the public, and a lot of people sent in designs. There was a committee that I'm not sure exactly all the people that were on this committee, but it was city folks, city employees, hardworking public servants who set aside some time to sift through all of the submissions. And then there was an announcement last week. Hey, here's the 4 designs that we think of all the things that you guys submitted. These are the 4 that we think could work, and we would like you to now vote on it. So it was 2 stages of public engagement, right? It was the first stage, actually the 3 stages. I think the first stage was, what are some of the symbols you might want on a flag, like what colors and stuff? Then there was, okay, actually submit designs if you have an idea. And then 3 was vote on the 4 that we have culled of all of these. Which, honestly, from a public engagement standpoint, I feel like was a pretty good process if public engagement is what you want. And I appreciate that the city of Boise thought that this would be a fun and light way to engage the public. However, the 4 designs pretty much universally were hated. Wouldn't you say, Lindsay? Did you see one positive comment from anyone?
Not what I saw. The closest I saw to positive comments was, they follow the rules of vexiology, which is flag design symbols.
Yes,
that was about as close as I got. And Frankie, can you just, I know this is an audio medium, so describing the flags is only going to be so effective, but can you kind of describe the flags? And I think there was warranted outcry based on how the final 4 flags were designed.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do my best. I think what we'll do is definitely in the show notes, we'll link to an article that has all four of them. If you happened to live under a rock in the last week and did not see the four designs that were submitted or that were offered for the public to vote on, yeah. So first off, all of them kind of had similar vibes. They all had a similar color palette, which the city has said since then that they did receive submissions from the public. There were a couple, at least. There are similar vibes in some ways and similar color palette, which actually was intentional, according to reporting from Boise Dev. Since all of this has gone down, they chose the four designs and altered the color scheme to be consistent with, quote, the city's branding. And then they sent the colors changed alterations to the artists who submitted them to get their approval. So navy is a dominant color in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of a forest green shows up in all three as well. There's like one that has the river vibe, a riverscape kind of look, slightly different, I guess, width of rivers across three of them, across all four of them. So there's allusion to, obviously the Boise River, the Navy. I don't really get, to be honest. We can talk about that more, but, probably just outdoorsy vibes. Green, obviously. We think of our valley as very green, especially when it comes to trees.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely need to talk more about that. As far as other symbols in the main four flags, there's stars in all four of them. There was some yellow in one, or in all of them, I guess, except for one. And then two of the designs had exactly the same, slightly different size flower. That the first reaction I think our team had when we saw it, I think was from our producer Evelyn Avicii, goes, hibiscus flower?
It does look like a hibiscus.
But we don't have hibiscus in the Treasure Valley. It was supposed to be a syringa flower, is what we've learned, is what it was supposed to symbolize, which is the state of Idaho's state flower. But as hundreds, perhaps, people pointed out online, syringa flower only has 4 petals, and in the design, it had 5. What else stood out to you with these designs, I guess? Were there any other symbols or things that... The stars, I'm not sure what those were supposed to go for. Maybe the state capitol?
Yeah. So somebody actually sent me the criteria that the committee had and that people had when they submitted it. And so one of them was that it had to include the city of Boise blue, which is that navy blue from the original flag. So I think that's why that was so prominent.
So dominant, yeah.
In all of the designs. And it really, really was. The issue that stood out to me, besides the 2 matching syringa flowers, is that they told us these came from 4 different artists, that these are 4 flags from 4 different artists, but they all have a very tropical flavored vibe, which is very interesting. I think they all have this kind of curve going through the middle, which I think is supposed to be the greenbelt or the river or something.
Yeah, sure.
But they all look like, I don't mean this any other way than this is just how it appears to me, citizen bystander. It looks like they were all designed by the same person. Like if somebody was like, here's my 3 takes on the flag. And they did say that they merged a design between 2 artists. And I wonder if that's how we get the 2 syringa flowers.
Right.
But from these vexillology standards, I feel like they just held too tightly to that. Now I get it. You don't want too many colors. You really want like max 5 at the very most. It needs to be a very simple design, something very just iconic. But I think like one of the principles they said was that, a child can draw it from memory. And this person who messaged me said like, they specifically said like a kindergartner needs to be able to draw it. So I wonder if there was this idea of like, kindergartners are really little, not knowing kindergartners can draw the state of Utah flag. They can draw the American flag. They can add some detail, because that's the thing about these flags is they are so basic. They limited them to 2 colors, maybe 3, just slightly. A lot of these flags end up having 4 colors though. So I think that's really interesting. And then they said, no duplicating other flags. Although people in comments online were saying like, this flag looks like from this country, or this flag looks like from this, water bottle company, which I thought was interesting. Did you get a chance to look at the other designs that were available? The city of Boise put them up online. Idaho News 6 had some of them.
Yeah.
The thing that I was most surprised about is maybe that the committee chose the flags that they did. Like, I'm going to be so honest. When I look at all of these other flag submissions, the top 4 would not be my top 4.
Is there one that clearly should have been the top to you of those ones? Because to be honest, I didn't really like any of them that were submitted. So
I don't think there's any that are perfect. I do like there's some with the foothills that I think are really interesting. There's one that has kind of a little knot to the side. It almost looks like a country's flag a little bit, but I like it.
What about the one with the big potato? It looks like a turd in the middle.
Okay, that one I think that was funny. Somebody had to do that. Somebody had to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
That was gonna happen. There's actually one that has, it almost looks like an EKG line, but it's clearly like the foothills, the river, maybe the green belt, very green. I actually really kind of like that one. So there are some I like. I guess, I wasn't on the committee and I don't think I need to have a say, but I was just surprised that the top 4 were the top 4.
Well, this is what I would say, Lindsay. I think it's interesting you said that I don't know that I have to have a say, because the whole point is that they were trying to engage the public. And this is me stepping back. So yeah, the mayor came out and said, never mind, nobody can have any fun anymore. She didn't actually say that. That's me saying what I think is really going on is that everything is so political these days. We can have no fun, even with a flag design contest. And I get that the designs, people hated them. People wanted trees. I think that was the main one, is that people wanted like an actual tree in the flag. Seemed to come up over and over again. You mentioned the kindergarten thing. Somebody even said it looks like Canva by kindergartners. And I think the big thing is that we're trying to balance like the people who are really interested in flag design are, putting forward these principles, which are probably smart in some ways. You think about like Madison, Wisconsin recently redid their flag or has done that fairly recently. And they're one of the, when I look at it, I'm like, I would totally put that on a water bottle. I would absolutely have that as a sticker on my laptop if I lived in Madison. So I think that's the guiding principle that I'd like to see going forward. But at the same time, I recognize that the city was just trying to engage the public. And, people were saying, hey, this is socialist. Like, these are socialist flag designs. To me, that's kind of the bigger issue, is that it just feels like right now at this moment, there are very few things that people can agree on, except for, I guess, everybody hated those designs, but they also necessarily didn't have great alternatives, is what I think.
That's so interesting. People were saying it's like socialist and stuff. I was just hearing a lot of like, nothing about this looks like Boise. And so, yeah, I think it's tricky. I'm glad they opened it up to the public. I think the tricky thing was ultimately the designs that made it to the final cut. Even from my perspective, this can just totally be my perspective, didn't embody Boise in any way. Like, I'd never look at that flag and be like, that's a flag of Boise, Idaho, a landlocked Mountain West state. And so, I appreciate the fun. I appreciate like getting the community
But do you?
involved.
Because you're critiquing. I mean, that's the thing that's so tricky. Like, I'm not saying that any of the designs came through that were good. It's more like, can we do this? Can we just like be okay with trying something new? I think the answer is no. Unfortunately, I think the answer is no.
I think if it had been the right design, it would have been a yes.
But who gets to decide what's the right design?
But I think a non-tropical design would have been a hit. Like, there were people who were like, I'm just an influencer who does like foodie stuff, but I just really don't want this to be the flag of my city.
So who gets to decide though? Experts who are like flag symbol experts, or designers, or is it just a free for all and we just stick with the old one? That's what the mayor decided.
Yeah, that's ultimately what we're doing. I just think looking at these other designs, I think there are other ones that people would have been happier with. So I don't think it should be a never. I just think maybe a little looser with the vexillology standards or maybe, okay, what do you think about this idea? having like a top 20 and people get to vote, and then like that's half the weight and a committee is half the weight.
It sounds like too many cooks in the kitchen and everyone's going to be mad. That's what I think.
Hey friends, it's Lindsay, and I have some big news. CityCast Boise is doing our first ever live podcast taping, and you're invited. Join us next Tuesday at noon at the iconic Boise Depot, where we're digging into the transportation question of the century. Could passenger trains really return to our city? The Depot is celebrating its 100th anniversary, and while it's a beloved landmark, will it ever be a working station again, or is that just the nostalgia talking? Mayor Lauren McLean and Amtrak board member Elaine Clegg will be there to break it all down, and you'll get a chance to ask your questions too. So come be part of the conversation Tuesday, April 15th from noon to 1 at the Depot. There will be a food truck, comfy seating, and a great discussion waiting for you. Can't wait to see you there.
SpringFest deals are still in full swing at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 bags of Stay Green Premium Color 2 cubic foot mulch for only $10. And get up to 40% off select major appliances. Plus, save up to $300 when you buy 2 or more select GE kitchen appliances of $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/16, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details and qualifying items.
In other news that will definitely affect Boiseans, Avelo Airlines is going to be working with the Trump administration and working to do mass deportation flights out of the country. And so, I mean, they used to be the discount airline you could use to get a cheap flight to California, but that's not going to really exist anymore with that company in Boise. What kind of an impact? I mean, not just for Boise. This is federal news, national news. This is another way that these federal stories, these national stories are impacting Boise. But what kind of an impact do you think that will have on the expanding Boise airport, and then also their goodwill or now maybe lack of with the community?
Yeah, great point. I think that absolutely, we never know how the Trump administration is going to affect Boise. There have been plenty of talks about, tariff trickle-down effects and obviously job cuts and stuff. But I did not have it on my bingo card that a low-cost airline would be part of this discussion. So, they're pulling out at the end of April. This is reporting from the Idaho Statesman. Although I will say I went onto their website and you can still seemingly buy tickets into May, but I wouldn't because they're pulling out. And side note, they're not as inexpensive as I thought they would be. I did not get to use Avelo while it was at the Boise airport. Yeah, they've been flying to their big gimmicky kind of thing was flying directly to wine country. They even had like a promotion. They've only been doing this for a year, I should say, too. So this is a very short-lived experience that Boiseans had. They had a special gimmicky thing where if you fly to wine country, you can fly a whole case of wine back for free was their thing. But yeah, now they're going to be working with ICE. So this is wild to me. When I read this story, my jaw dropped. It's just really, really interesting to see again, how, something as far afield as a budget airline that happens to go through Boise is now going to be partnering with the Trump administration to do these deportations to El Salvador, to wherever, and this has been obviously big time in the news with the Supreme Court ruling in favor of the Trump administration earlier this week. To me, there's obviously the two sides of this story. Yes, Boise's losing a low-cost airline that hadn't been around for very long, as well as, obviously adding to the infrastructure of Trump's immigration policies.
I thought the timing of this announcement was really interesting as well, because there was just a border security expo in Phoenix on April 8th. And at that expo, the different, border czar, ICE director. They had all these different speeches. And one of the main themes of the expo was that they wanted Amazon-like, this is a quote, Amazon-like mass deportation system, like
Ooh.
Prime, but with human beings. And
what a quote.
Yeah, no, that absolutely turns my stomach that we're talking about our fellow humans that way. But one of the things that Tom Homan talked about is that they would need, or Tom Homan, Border Czar, talked about, is that they would need lots of private contracts, and they wanted private contracts with airlines and different suppliers. And so it seems like this is the direction that department of the federal government is going. How much of an impact do you think that will have on air transportation for Americans, and how this mass deportation effort goes?
Well, it sounds like Avelo itself, again, this is from the Statesman, that they're going to use 3 of its 737s for these deportations. So, I mean, 737s carry a lot of people. We'll see how packed those flights are, I guess. Or maybe we won't see, because this has obviously been happening. Thankfully, some really good national reporting to find out more information about how this has all gone. But it's secretive for a reason. And I'd say, God, I don't even know. This is just such one of those strange stories that when it came across this week, I was like, absolutely was not expecting this to be a downward trickle effect of the Trump administration. But yeah, no more wine country, folks. Instead, they'll be flying internationally to El Salvador, it sounds like, deporting folks depending on their status, and maybe, with a lot of questionable legal proceedings around it.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
We're shipping Easter gifts with a rapid-fire round of questions. Ready?
Yes. My gift. Can you pack it?
Yep.
Ship it?
Yes.
Guarantee it?
Of course.
Oh, send gift baskets?
For sure.
Protect electronics? Dog-proof it? Return it if they hate it?
Yes, no, and yeah.
Are you the UPS store?
Hey, we have a winner!
Visit theupsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product, services, prices, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Visit a store today.
Moving away from something that's pretty uncertain right now, very heavy, and I definitely want to jump into the picks of the week, because I was blown away in a fantastic way by some reporting done by KTVB's Brian Holmes this week. And I know I've talked a lot about on my socials, but also on this podcast, about this whole West Ada debacle with the "everyone is welcome here" sign. It continues to make news. There continues to be new information about it. But Brian Holmes had this fantastic investigative piece where they did a records request for all the communications between administrators, the board, all the trustees, everybody. And they actually found out that the administrators had done a mock podcast interview and posted it onto their YouTube channel. And it seems to be prep for the time that they did an interview. Marcus Myers and then Trustee Benetti did an interview with a local podcast. Now,
right,
as
the
of,
Ranch podcast.
Yeah,
right?
Ranch podcast. And as of this recording, they haven't publicly done interviews with any news stations, news outlets. It's really just been that one podcast. And so it looks like they did this whole mock-up to prepare for it. And in that, they claimed during the interview that they felt that the interview that Brian Holmes initially did with teacher Sarah Inama was, quote, directly timed and politically timed, that it was kind of a political hit at the district, and not necessarily just a teacher wanting to speak out about concerns that she had, and then a local journalist wanting to report on that because it's a big story for this area. The district hasn't been very transparent. And so as a parent, I appreciate this glimpse into how are they thinking about this? How are they talking about this? And it helps me get a better sense of how I should be reacting as a parent or how I should be communicating with my trustees. So I really appreciate that little bit of sunlight on this issue, and definitely got me fired up, but in a really good way. And I think the community has really appreciated all of the work done by local journalists on this topic.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you shouted out Brian Holmes, who was on this story from the very beginning, has not been able, I believe, still to talk on the record in like an extended interview with West Ada, right? So public records requests are definitely one of those like very wonky journalist things that, thank your local journalists, I guess is what I would say. Give Brian a shout out. And it is interesting that they put it on their public YouTube channel. I'm just opening it right now. I haven't watched this whole thing. Fascinating. It seems like another PR issue that they are dealing with, to say the least.
Yes. Well, Frankie, what is your pick of the week heading into the weekend?
Oh my God. We are just a few days away from our first ever live podcast taping. How are you feeling, Lindsay? You're going to be talking with Mayor Lauren McLean and Valley Regional Transit CEO Elaine Clegg, who also happens to be on the board of Amtrak, on Tuesday. Are you excited?
I am. I'm really excited. I've spent the past couple weeks reading up, trying to get all the information I can, listening to a podcast that you did actually 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And about Amtrak with our CityCast Salt Lake, and just gathering all this information. It's such a fascinating topic, and it's fascinating. It seems like so many people are excited about passenger rail, but I'm interested to see what Elaine Clegg and Mayor McLean think about whether that will translate into political will. Because it is a topic that really just captures the imagination of people in Boise. But, that doesn't always mean we get the things that we want. So I'm really excited to dive into this with them.
Yeah, your guiding question on Tuesday at noon, from noon to 1 at the depot will be, could passenger train really, really actually return to Boise? Because, there's been a few years of interest in this, and both Clegg and McLean have been very involved in this process, which is why we're talking to them. We'll talk a little bit about the history of the depot and stories from people. I'm hoping that people show up who actually were able to use the Pioneer Line back in the day before it ended in 1997. We could nerd out about the train stuff forever.
Yes.
You're going to nerd out about it for a full hour on Tuesday. And so we're so excited. Thanks to the city of Boise for asking us for Parks and Recreation that operates the Boise Depot as this, historic, iconic landmark, for inviting us to be part of this. And there'll also be an opportunity for people to ask their questions of the mayor and Elaine Clegg. I'm excited. I can't wait, actually.
Oh, me too. Me too. See you there, everyone. That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. The show is produced by Evelyn Avitia, Frankie Barnhill, Selena C.A. Reynolds, and me, Lindsay Van Allen. Blake Hunter writes our Hey Boise newsletter with help from Adrian Gonzalez this week. And our music is by Up Is the Down Is the and All the Kimonos. We'll be back on Monday with everything you need to know about how the economy is impacting the Boise housing market. You won't want to miss it.